It's my pleasure to welcome you this evening to the Exchange Talk. My name is Simon Cook. I'm the Workshop Manager for RCS. Just before we begin, I'd like to let you know that this talk is being recorded and that there's also a closed caption available if you click on the bottom right corner of the Zoom screen. This evening's talk's titled Sustainable Theatre Practice, and our speaker is going to be Megumi Hari. Now, Megumi is a colleague of mine, and she's a Canadian scenic artist, designer, and an advocate for workers' unions. She's a member of the International Alliance of Theatre Stage Employees and a Broadcasting, Entertainment and Communications Theatre Union BECTU rep, and currently holds the post of Scenic Art Tutor at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. She's attained a Master of Fine Arts degree in Technical Design and in Drama from the University of Calgary, an Advanced Diploma in Entertainment Technology from Clair College, and a Certificate in University Teaching and Learning from the Taylor Institute for Teaching and Learning. Megumi has served as head of Scenic Artist for Thousand Islands Playhouse and for Sudbury Theatre Centre, Sudbury, Ontario, and is the Assistant Scenic Artist at the Royal Manitoba Theatre Centre in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Now, towards the end of this, we'll be having an audience question and answer session, and at the end of the talk, we'd invite you to type your questions for Megumi in the Q&A box. So, without further ado, I'd like to hand over to you, Megumi.
Hello. Hello, and thank you for joining me on this exchange talk, Sustainable Theatre Practice. To manage expectations, I would like to state that I'm not here to give you a blueprint of how to be sustainable, but rather guide you through ideas so that you can develop your own sustainable theatre practice. I will discuss how we can use old knowledge and also why we should embrace new technology to achieve this goal. I will go over some of the actions that the Conservatoire and other producing houses are taking now, and what other future steps we encourage. A bit of a spoiler, sustainable theatre practice is absolutely achievable. It just takes time, dedication, investment in the people, and shift in our culture. So I guess we'll jump straight in. When you boil down our professions, regardless of if you're on the creative team, the production team, or supporting members of staff, as a theatre practitioner, our one common objective is storytelling. What is storytelling? Theatre is a powerful vehicle. We can transport our audience members to the ancient past, into the distant future, or magnify the issues of today. We can tell them fictitious stories of Peter, the boy who never grew up, as well as non-fictitious stories, such as Alexander Hamilton, a founding father of the United States. Theatre can both take you on a fantastical journey or bring you closer back to reality. It's something we as humans have been doing for hundreds of years. Now, what makes for a good storytelling? I love referring to Aristotle with my students on this matter. In his book of Poetics, Aristotle outlines that there are 6 parts which determines the quality of tragedy. Those points are plot, character, dictional style, thought, spectacle, song, or lyric and poetry. Here's a translated quote from Aristotle. The spectacle has indeed an emotional attraction of its own, but of all the parts, it is the least artistic and connected least with the art of poetry. For the power of tragedy, we may be sure, is felt even apart from representation and actors. Besides, the production of spectacular aspects demands more on the art of the stage mechanist than that of the poet. To simply summarize his writing, he puts the onus on the playwright to compose a good narrative. Without a good composition of the story, the character, style, the spectacle are all wasted efforts. Stagecraft and spectacle are supplement to a good storytelling and is a nice to have rather than a must have for a good, effective storytelling. Now, theater can serve as a form of protest and advocacy as well. Through careful choosing of the stories we produce throughout our season, productions can address uncomfortable topics such as exploitation of labor, marginalization of certain groups, and other global and social issues. By presenting these narratives on stage, theater artists invite audiences to confront uncomfortable truths and engage in critical conversations. In addition to raising awareness, theater can also serve as a catalyst for direct action and advocacy. Before a production can be realized, the producers and the artistic directors select the script to be produced for consumption. We should be asking, why this story at this time? Now, don't mistake me. Many go experience the theater to witness the stagecrafts and spectacle on stage. But we must admit that the production process is inherently resource intensive, requiring raw materials such as wood, paint, fabric, and steel. We are in a global climate crisis, and yet in our own performance practices, we contribute greatly to the landfill for the sake of spectacle of theater, the nice to haves. Like how we budget our finance, we need to now Like how we budget our finance, we need to now review our green budget. Sustainable theater encourages artistic innovation by challenging traditional conventions and embracing new technologies, materials, and practices. In the last year and a bit, like many other producing houses across the UK, the Conservatoire have been engaging with the Theatre Green Book baseline. The target is as followed. 50% of all materials come from reused or recycled sources. 65% of the materials go on to future lives through storage or reuse. We avoid harmful and unsustainable materials, run technical systems sustainably, and reduce journeys and deliveries. These numbers seem achievable enough, but believe me, I find it quite difficult. We are working on a streamlined production process that is linear. The collaboration at the development stage needs to be pushed back further, with the step 4, materials, being incorporated into the collaboration process. When we reach the creation phase of our productions, we have 3 avenues to choose from. They are pulling from stock, upcycling or repurposing, or building from new. If the producing house was to pull majority of the set and costume pieces from stock, they must know the appropriate stock is readily available to offer to the collaborators. This requires excellent organizational skills, adequate storage area, maintenance, and knowledge of what's in our stock. Most production houses currently lack the necessary time and storage spaces to do so effectively. We are pressed for time during our get-outs to take necessary measurements, photographs, to achieve where these costumes, props, and set pieces are stored. It also calls for climate control on some instances. Most workshop and producing houses will have stocks of standardized flats, risers, steel decks in storage, while props and costume storage will contain a range of stock items throughout historic periods and styles. The videos that I have been playing in the background shows our prop and costume storage available to us here at Wallace Studios. More often than not, designers will not want to reuse previously used materials as is, and therefore the production staff are asked to upcycle or repurpose what's in store. This brings us to upcycling and repurposing. The production staff should be well-versed in the historic accuracies of their disciplines to help inform the designer. Take, for example, historic fashion silhouettes. Fashion silhouettes serve as visual markers that reflect the styles and trends of a particular era. region, and one's social class. By considering the shape, proportion, and construction of a garment silhouette, the wardrobe team can pull together an outfit appropriate for the show. Classic examples include the Victorian era, where the women's fashion silhouette was characterized by voluminous skirts, narrow waists, and elaborate sleeves and necklines. The 1920s brought the iconic flapper silhouette, characterized by dropped waistlines, loose, straight-cut dresses, and shorter hemlines. The 1960s 'ushered in the era of mod fashion, characterized by geometric shapes, miniskirts, and boxy silhouettes. The 1980s embraced bold and exaggerated silhouettes with power shoulders. When costume departments take in donations, they will examine those garments for what they can become rather than only for what it is. When period garments are donated, they are often too fragile to put into a show and too small for modern bodies. However, these garments make for wonderful research material to study how they were made. It is an acquired skill for the members of the production team to identify what materials to keep and what materials to refuse. Carpentry, properties, scenic art departments call for skills and knowledge in their own respective disciplines as well. The historical, geographical, and cultural accuracies is paramount in upcycling and repurposing scenery pieces. Thus, we must invest in the skill, knowledge, and time on our production staff. For them to have the historical and material knowledge and their artistic skill to see what the objects can become. Finally, for those pieces that could not come from stock, upcycled or repurposed, the productions team will then construct these items from new. When constructing sceneries, costumes, and properties from new, we must be conscious of the afterlife of the pieces. As previously outlined, most production houses lack the adequate storage space. Therefore, we should consider if the new builds can be something that can be put back into stock for future productions, rented or sold to other theater groups, or donated to local business or charities. If these items cannot have an afterlife, can they be built with materials that can be recycled or repurposed? The build list is currently created at the very early stages of the creative process, during concept and development. It's not until the final is delivered that the production department interacts with the design, where they can have a conversation with the designers and the directors what items are going to be pulled from stock, upcycled, repurposed, or built from new. This is why the production team should be invited to the production process earlier, something that the conservator is slowly moving towards. Now, let's take a step back to the design process. Close your eyes and imagine that you're back in primary 2 again. You're with your mates. You have a bed sheet, maybe a pillowcase too, a torch, a broom, a pot lid, and you're in your parents' living room. You create a narrative, and then you play it out. With just the simple objects found around your parents' homes, your 6-7-year-old imagination runs wild. You do not actively go seeking for a specific costume, prop, nor scenery, and yet you and your friends could create an effective storytelling. You've utilized what is in your space, made do, and relied on your audience imagination. Are we looking around in our own living rooms first to seek out the materials for storytelling? Are we asking the question, what resources are available to me, first and foremost, locally? The design shouldn't dictate the materials, but rather the materials should inform what the design can be. We should know what is in our own home and make an inventory of what objects we can pull to design with. We can then start to include the local businesses, groups that investigate what our limitations are and find the means of working within it. Every household offers different resources and knowledge. In a larger scale, we could see our geographical locations as the households. What Scotland can offer will be different from my homeland, Canada. Take, for example, ARMS, or Arts Resource Management Scotland. You may already be aware of the work they do in sharing resources, materials, and equipment around Scotland. The geographical size of Scotland makes projects like this possible, having a shared storage and resource management. To achieve a circular design process, you will need to think of the afterlife of the materials pulled, refurbished, or built. Is the specific scenery or costume going to be put back into stock or donated to local business or charity? With the relationship you've hopefully made with your community, you could possibly create a piece that can be reused in future shows or be donated to have an afterlife. And remember, not every idea in a script needs a literal visual translation. A theater design should help aid the narration of storytelling. It should not be used as a crutch for a poor plot. If the broom in your parents' house could become an oar, a sword, a guitar, a gate, or whatever the 6-7-year-old you imagined it to be, why can't it become it now? Sustainable theater practice requires high level of organization. Creating a living document of resources available where they are stored and keeping them updated is a laborious task. Reframing of production schedule to allow appropriate time for stage management team and the stores to document this will help future workflow for the next production that we put on stage. By optimizing resource data, storage, and usage, production houses can minimize waste and reduce the environmental footprint. By organizing and interpreting these data, we can identify areas for improvement and track progress towards sustainability targets. However, this all takes time, and we must carve out the time and budget to allow staff to uphold these tasks. Theater Green Book is the first step in data collection. With future gathering of data, we can start to outline our success and show forcing our practice to make future shows more sustainable. I wanted to speak on a few examples I learned about utilizing old knowledge while I attended the World Stage Design Conference in Canada 2 summers ago. One is on how Indigenous ways of knowing can offer valuable insights that can help inform sustainable theater practices. Indigenous cultures recognize the interconnectedness of all living beings and environment, inspiring theater practitioners to consider the broader ecological context of their work. This perspective promotes sustainable practice, prioritizing the well-being of ecosystems and communities. Along with this teaching by the Blackfoot elder, Little Bear, we were welcome to watch the show Iniskim, Return of the Buffalo. The show used lantern sculptures, puppetry, traditional Blackfoot songs, and dance accompanied by Nakota drumming to retell the stories of the buffalo in North America. The show took place on their traditional land and relied on darkness. The puppets were made with willow and calico and lit in the interior with LED strips. The producers chose an appropriate story to tell for the time and place. The production relied on the expertise from the Indigenous community and allowed them to take the lead on the artistic aspects of the design. They were invited to wear the traditional clothing for the performance. As well for the spectacle, they've utilized their traditional songs and dance. And the visual aesthetics were beautiful, and it enriched the storytelling without being extravagant. There is a parallel with this practice in eco-scenography. Eco-scenography is a collaborative method of scenography with ecology at the heart of its practice. Sustainable theater, much like the previous example, can draw on principles of community engagement, cultural sensitivity, and ecological knowledge to foster inclusivity and diversity within the industry. Eco-creativity should not be seen as a hindrance to an artistic expression, but rather a welcoming opportunity by encouraging designers to work with the integrity and openness to the abundance of natural materials available. Eco-scenography, with its emphasis on process over outcome, celebrates the messy yet enriching journey of creation. This approach invites us to appreciate the inherent unpredictability and growth embedded within creative endeavors. Collaborating with unorthodox materials and methodology demands a pause for unsustainable time pressures, allowing us to challenge our preconceived practice methods and explore new possibilities. By incorporating Indigenous perspectives and honoring connections to place, theatre production can create environmentally conscious, culturally sensitive, and community-engaged works that contribute positively to both the art and the environment. Returning to the main objective of our practice, storytelling, theatre has long served as a powerful medium for social commentary and activism. Through innovative storytelling techniques, theatre artists have the ability to shed light on economic injustice and advocates for change. I attended another production at the World Stage Design called Recess Time by Singaporean theatre makers, Practice Tuck Shop. This performance shed light on the issue of food waste in Singapore, while audience members were invited to have lunch. Home cooks and professional chefs that they call makan masters, or food masters in Malay, go on vegetable rescue missions to salvage bruised, unwanted, ugly produce in the community that is hosting the play. They then incorporate them into a 3-course menu of their choosing. As you can see in the above examples, theatre is not limited to traditional indoor performance spaces. Recess Time invited us to an outdoor public space to host this lunch, while in Ishkim, the return of the buffalo was undertaken in a field on Aquaria Lake Park in Canmore. These site-specific performances can help reaching audiences who may not have access to traditional theatre venues. By taking theatre out of conventional spaces and into the public sphere, artists can reach broader audiences in unexpected places. Additionally, Indigenous cultures' deep respect for nature and traditional ecological knowledge emphasizes environmental stewardship and living in harmony with the earth. Another example I would like to speak about during my time at World Stage Design was attending a keynote presentation delivered by Yoshinori Tanokura. He is a Japanese-American scenographer that allows his traditional Japanese influence to inform his design choices. In the Japanese culture, imperfection and simplicity is celebrated, quite a contrast from the Western theatre practice. One example Yoshinori spoke of was applying the concept of wabi-sabi to his practice. The word is made up of 2 characters, wabi, meaning simple, while sabi means patina. Wabi-sabi emphasizes imperfections and beauty of simplicity. Thus, the artistic elements embraces simplicity, minimalism, and use of natural materials, allowing imperfections to shine through. Perfection, often viewed through a Eurocentric lens, imposes rigid standards that may stifle the organic evolution of creativity. Can we embrace that unpredictability with the materials at hand and challenge our urge to strike predetermined results? Can we encourage our audience members to not only find beauty in imperfection, but celebrate it with us? I have now spoken about examples of old knowledge deriving from my 2 homelands of Canada and Japan, and borrowing an example from Singapore. I now want to draw your attention back to the land that we are on today. If we ask for help from our community, they will answer. Most people are inherent teachers. If we ask for guidance and listen in return, you will find many elders within our community. I took part in a 1-day workshop at the Museum of Rural Life in East Kilbride on natural dyeing taught by Elizabeth Colshaw. She uses natural dyes and botanical materials with natural fibers. She taught us the process of naturally dyeing fabric using Japanese indigo, wad, heather, and veld. These are plants that grow in Scotland and north of England. The ones that we have used in this workshop comes from Glasgow Botanic Gardens and her own backyard. During the workshop, she explained how the Scots have been dyeing their wools using these techniques to create their colorful tartans. Perfect as the natural dyes color binds using these techniques. Oh shoot, sorry. Perfect as the natural dyes color binds well to cellulose and protein fibers that are used in traditional tartan making. Is this an old practice that we might be able to bring back? What other Scottish or British knowledge can we tap into to assist the achievement of a more sustainable model? Here are some examples of natural fabrics and wools that we were able to dye using those natural dyes. Questions may arise about who has the agency to utilize traditional methods and how to maintain cultural identity without appropriating others' traditions. It's crucial to navigate these complexities with respect, ensuring that cultural appreciation does not lead to appropriation. Designers must strive to preserve and celebrate their own traditions while collaborating respectfully. After all, theater creation is about collectivism and collaboration. Remember to allow nature to also be a collaborator in our practices. How technology aids us in sustainable theater practice. Vectorworks is the industry standard when it comes to CAD, or computer-aided drafting program. Vectorworks Spotlight is specifically designed for professionals in the entertainment industry, including lighting designers, riggers, sound designers, and scenic designers. It provides a library of tools and features to streamline designing and documenting for live entertainment. Designers can create 3D models of stage, venue, scenic design, lighting, and sound to visualize the design from any angle and perspective. As seen in the advertisement that I've just played, the program facilitates remote collaboration and communication, which reduces the need for physical prototypes and minimizes material waste. During the pandemic, when I was designing a show, Jawbone, I was able to communicate with the director remotely using the 3D rendering of the set through Zoom. Vectorworks module is offered to PAD and PTM students here at the Conservatoire. During the World Stage Design Conference, I was introduced to a CAD program that I was unaware of. Working patterns prove that theater practices follow suit from the film and fashion industry, and Clo 3D is a software tool used currently in the fashion industry. The software aids in computer-aided design and visualizing clothes in a virtual environment. These patterning softwares allows for you to build an avatar of your own performer into the program and give them virtual fittings. You can import different fabric types such as cotton, linen, rayon, chiffon, and by doing so, you can see how the fabric drapes on the model and even calculate the stress points on the garment before you even cut into the fabric. This ensures a longer lasting and well-constructed costume. Another added benefit of going digital with costume construction is the digitalization of your patterns. You can now store and find the digital patterns on your laptop or desktop easily. This allows cutters to travel without the physical boxes of patterns. And since they are digital, you can quickly adjust measurements. This compresses the drafting time, and designers can easily adjust the fit and size of garments to accommodate different body types. The software provides tools for resizing patterns, adjusting seam allowances, and fine-tuning to achieve the desired look and fit. The patterns can then be printed out on a plotter printer, which many producing houses already have. As the patterns can be stored and shared digitally, this eliminates the need to store the physical patterns, which can often go missing or be damaged. It can also be organized easily online by giving them tags by period, style, size, etc. They come with a trace function where you can place scanned images into the program. And just to give an idea, here's an advert from Clo 3D. So I apologize. I just read the message from the host saying that there was no audio in one of the videos. I really hope you guys were able to hear that past one. Now, there are potential roadblocks to digital integration, such as resistance to learning new skills, generational shifts, and concerns about job displacement. Something that we have all seen in the past. I believe investing in the future of technical advancements will only benefit our students that are going to work for an ever innovative and changing industry. I'm not suggesting that we move to digital full stop overnight. However, working hybridly should be the baseline in 2024. Classes and online tutorials are recommended as resources for learning digital tools with an emphasis on practical knowledge and hands-on experience. Additionally, it was suggested that workshops and training programs be implemented to familiarize students with digital technologies, emphasizing the importance of maintaining proficiency in traditional drafting techniques alongside digital practices. Despite these challenges, there is a consensus on the necessity of adapting to technological advancements and investing in training and education to ensure that we are ahead of the bell curve. Now, for sustainable theater practice to work effectively, we need the commitment and the collaboration from every individual interacting with it. This includes the producers who select the shows that goes on stage, directors and designers who lead their visions, and calls on the knowledge and skill of the production staff to execute these designs. We will need to kindly ask audience members and stakeholders to manage their expectations as we go through a transitioning time. While spectacle and stagecraft are important, they are secondary to the core elements of storytelling, serving to enhance rather than overshadow the narrative. We must reduce material consumption and promote sustainable practices. Designers are encouraged to embrace a circular production process and collaborate more closely with production teams to optimize resource usage and minimize waste. This involves pulling from existing stock, upcycling, and repurposing materials, and constructing new items with an eye towards their afterlife and recyclability. All knowledge, such as Indigenous ways of knowing, offers valuable insights to sustainable practices, emphasizing interconnectedness with the environment and the importance of community engagement. Incorporating technology into sustainable theater practice offers opportunities for better organizational skills and efficiency. Computer-aided drafting programs like Vectorworks and Clo3D streamline design process, allowing for virtual modeling and simulation of sets and costumes. Furthermore, digital tools facilitate remote collaboration and communication, reducing the need for physical prototypes and minimizing material waste. There is no one right methodology to achieve a better practice. However, it should be a hybrid model of pulling from old knowledge and embracing the new technology available to us. We don't always have to look forward. Sometimes you need to take the time to look back. It doesn't always have to be the new way. It could be the old way. We need more time to build and maintain relationship with our local collaborators, time for staff to develop new technological skills, staff to revisit and sharpen old skills, time to review and catalog what's in our stock, and time to reclaim, recycle, and/or upcycle that said stock. We need the dedication from all members taking part in this practice. We will fail at many points. But by documenting our successes and shortfalls and trying new practices and methods, we can strive to do better with each production. We can reframe and manage expectations by leading audience education and engagement through pre-show discussions, post-show Q&As, and preparing educational materials to raise awareness. Remember that theater can serve as a form of advocacy through careful choosing of the stories we produce. This can create a ripple effect, raising widespread awareness about sustainable issues surrounding the entertainment industry and inspire audiences and stakeholders to take action in their own lives. If each one of us plays our part in the areas that we can control, think of the impact we can have as a whole. For myself as a scenic art tutor, I encourage students to limit their purchases to local markets and make sustainable choices over convenience. We have banned aerosol spray paints as of last year, which are found to be harmful to the environment. With the help from Innovation Studio and the Athenaeum Award, I was able to push for a new IXP module, Experiment Eco-Scenographic Practices, here at the Conservatoire, which will be running during week 12 of this term. The CPU department have pushed for longer periods between concept and green card meetings, so that the production departments and the designers are allocated more time to investigate greener alternatives. Though it seems like small steps, we are headed towards the right trajectory, and one can hope that this will gain momentum. By working together across disciplines, documenting our shortfalls and successes, we can continue to improve a sustainable and resilient future for the arts. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Megumi. There's a huge amount of information in there to unpack. If we could just get questions put into the chat box, anything anybody would like to push to Megumi just now. And while you're typing that, selfishly, I'm going to jump the gun. I'm particularly interested in what you said there, Megumi. You had a little quote about this sort of the drive towards literal visual translations. And do you think that's a uniquely Eurocentric approach to staging, or have you noticed that becoming increasingly prevalent elsewhere, particularly North America, perhaps even Japan? Is that something that you've come across?
Well, oh gosh, I do think it's a bit of a Eurocentric way of producing theater. More is more, I think, in the Eurocentric lens, whereas other cultures just have gone with what they have. I don't know if that answers the question, Sai.
It certainly does. I think it's interesting because I've come from a very European background of theatre, and I've noticed over the last 20 years going on 30 years in my career that there's been a much more significant push towards this sort of literal visual translation. I'm not entirely sure how to put a finger on it, but it seems to come more operatic staging, more grandiose staging across the board. Everybody's pushing for that and less theatrical. Just wondering if you sort of had a sense
It's
of...
unnecessary.
Yeah.
It is so unnecessary. We all have this image of an actor acting to an apple or a tennis ball, you know. Why can we not lean into the narration, the storytelling? You know, if that apple can become a second player in a script, why do we need all these literal translations of every aspect of a script? It's selfish. You know, it's selfish. I have this book, Ecological, written by Tanya Beer. And I love this one image that she has where she says, eco does not equal ego. And I feel like there's a lot of, you know, stroking the designer and director ego that happens instead of, again, going back to what's our number one objective? It's storytelling. And are we telling the necessary stories? What Tron Theatre right now, they're putting on one of my favorite Carol Churchill shows called Escaped Alone, which surrounds the story of elderly woman. You know, we never talk about elderly women in the acting world, and Carol Churchill purposefully wrote this show surrounding 4 women in their 80s. And I love that the producers at the Tron decided this is the show to put on right now, right here. So it starts with the narrative side.
Also quite like the illusion there, the nod you had towards old knowledge and looking back, sort of like looking for inspiration in old techniques. In some senses, it's almost like we've enjoyed a surfeit of easily accessible materials and resources, and that might have been a driver towards this push to ultra realism and literal translation because we could because we could have afforded it. But any other examples sort of old knowledge that you can think of, like repertory theatre as a good model for a production practice, or is there anything you could draw upon from your experiences elsewhere?
Why don't we do, you know, stock theater? Some are stock theaters anymore. Some are stock theater, you know, the clue's in the name. We only work with what's in stock. Yeah, sorry, I'm just
Sorry, I'm sort of dominating your time a little bit here, but sort of trying to drill back into this sort of the idea of drawing from other cultures around the world to inform the practice and finding ways to integrate that in. But also, I think you touched upon the idea of it not being borrowing, but not cultural appropriation. How tricky do you think that is, and is it feasible or reasonable?
I don't think it'll be tricky at all. We just need to make sure that we invite the necessary collaborators. If you want to tap into, I'm just gonna, talk about the Indigenous cultures of Canada just because it was in the talk. If we do want to bring Indigenous knowledge, Canadian Indigenous knowledge into our theater practice, we need to invite a member of that community that is celebrating their culture rather than appropriating.
Mhm.
I see a question in a box from Dale. Hi, Dale. Um, are there any artists that you would recommend looking at to learn more about this stuff? Yes, absolutely. So I have talked about the ecoscenographic practices IXB module that the conservatory will be hosting on week 12. That is going to be led by Mona Castell, who is an eco-scenographer just from Edinburgh. So again, her name is Mona Castell. You know what? I will put it into the chat if if I can figure out how to put it in there. Make sure I have her surname correctly here. Simon, is there anything else right now?
I think you've touched upon some of the things that RCS itself has been doing, some of the successes, some of the backward steps. It's been a bit of a journey. I'm part of that journey, but do you just want to sort of explain a little bit more about how that's been going in terms of Theatre Green Book? And how do you feel from your perspective that's sort of progressed, and is there more we can do you think, or is there something we could do better?
I love how we are adopting a Theatre Green Book and the back and forth conversations that we have been having with Jennifer, who is one of the developers. Is that right? Of
Yep.
Theatre Green Book. And what's been great is that after developing this framework, we have been interacting with it for the past year and a bit. We have been poking holes at it, and we have been giving feedback to the developers, going, "This is working, this isn't working," and them engaging with us. And again, no practice is going to be perfect, and just collecting data and just striving to do a little better within each show. I think that's a success in its own. Simon, just before the talk, we had talked a bit about the arms project that
Mhm.
Scotland is engaging with. Could you
Yeah.
speak a bit more on that?
Certainly. So, Arts Resource Management Scotland is a project that's been born out of the need to try and rekindle resource sharing between organisations. Many years ago, there was a fairly well-established network between theatres in Scotland. The stage managers were all resident and they all knew each other, but they also were very aware of what each theatre had in its resource base. Due to the changes in sort of the employment structure, with more people moving to freelance and short-term contracts, that sort of peer-to-peer network, the unspoken peer-to-peer network, sort of started to fade away a little bit. And that was coupled with stores becoming increasingly expensive, companies getting rid of stores, and the resource stocks dwindling. So Arts Resource Management Scotland is trying to find a way to make the resources that are out there visible, help companies share them peer-to-peer, but also to provide some sort of managed storage facility so that small companies to medium companies can actually have stores of an appropriate size without getting bogged down in the costs of taking on a lease, or the challenges of maintaining a store, or the need for staff to actually organize and structure things. So the aim is to ultimately rekindle that peer-to-peer network, provide the resources to store more props, furniture, equipment, and to better facilitate the exchanges and the sharing between those companies. In some sense, digitizing the old peer-to-peer network that used to exist, but bring it into the 21st century. Was that sort of a brief overview? Is that?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
I think,
I know,
is any more questions popping in there?
nah.
I think, Megumi, we did have a little bit of trouble with the sound on the videos. I don't know if you'd be able to pop a link into the chat there so people can go and have a quick look at them themselves.
Were
Uh,
they both of them?
yeah, unfortunately.
Oh, I have downloaded those videos onto the PowerPoint presentation, and I don't have the link ready at hand. Um,
I think we
I
could
wondered.
post it
Mhm.
forwards to anybody that is interested. If you want to get in touch, I'm sure Megumi will be able to find the links to those videos and demos for you. They look quite interesting. I was particularly fascinated by the Vectorworks one. I should know more, but I need to actually get back on that horse.
Well, that's again like time and space for staff development, Simon.
Yeah, time is the unifying factor here. I think change takes time, and I think we all need time to help enact that and help each other move forwards to a new sort of mode of working.
Absolutely.
Do we have any final thoughts or comments from the attendees, the audience? Not sure.
It's so bizarre that I can't see anybody.
I know. If there aren't any more questions coming in, I think that's been really interesting. Like I said before, there's a heck of a lot to unpack in there, Megumi. I'm going to go back through your script and have another go at it just to pick up on some of the other points you made. They were fantastic. And just like to take this point to thank Jackie, who's been diligently working in the background. She's the Exchange Talks host. She's been running all the tech. And thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. The only way we can move these things forward is to actually have conversations and to keep talking and to find and share new ideas as they come up. We would like to hope that you can join us next week for our next talk on Monday the 11th at 6 to 7 o'clock on Zoom with Dr. Sheena Burnett. The talk's titled The Composing Multiplicity of the Event, Neurodiverse Performance, Creation and Relational Emergence. Dr. Burnett will discuss the research creation and the exploration of neurodiverse modes of encounter through transdisciplinary performing and the creative arts practices. The registration link's available in the chat and via our Exchange Talks website. So I think on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much. And thank you for coming and good night.
Bye.